The theme of this week is, do you need a guru? Truth is one and eternal. Realize oneness with it in your deathless self within. The following commentary is based on the teachings of Paramahansa Yogananda. Many people scoff at the idea of having a guru. True to human nature generally, they make a virtue of their scoffing. I am responsible for what I do, they announce, responsible for my mistakes as well as for my victories. What would I ever learn if I handed over my development to someone else? To depend on another for guidance would be an act of spiritual cowardice. It would be understandable for someone gifted with some trivial ability, for instance with words, to insist on doing his crossword puzzle himself without letting anyone else help him. But supposing even in such trivial matter he had no such gift, what virtue would there be in refusing to learn? For that matter, where would the gift itself come from? That which is a gift is not a native ability. Still, crossword puzzles are hardly an important challenge. What if a person wanted to do something daring, to climb a cliff for instance, but refused to study the art of mountain climbing? He would climb at the risk of his life. And how much more is risked than physical life in the great adventure of the divine search, where the risk is to salvation itself? Where is the sacrifice in seeking guidance? Even a mountain guide wouldn't presume to do one's climbing for one. His purpose would be only to help the neophyte to climb safely. To have a wise guru is not a sign of weakness, but of plain common sense. All the saints, aware as they are of the hazards of the adventure, agree on the importance of having a guide or guru. And these are the heroes speaking, not cowards or spiritual weaklings. Jesus emphasized the importance of having a teacher by asking John to baptize him. In the Gospel of St. Matthew, chapter 3, we read of his coming to John. Thus, Jesus said to John, "It becometh us to fulfill all righteousness." In the Bhagavad Gita, the 4th chapter, Sri Krishna says, "Open thyself to those who have attained wisdom. They will be thy teachers. Ask questions of them, both verbally and mentally. Serve them faithfully and with devotion." How is the devotee to recognize one who has attained wisdom? The Bhagavad Gita gives us this inspiring description of the sage. By this sign is he known, being of equal grace to comrades, friends, chance-comers, strangers, lovers, enemies, aliens, and kinsmen, loving all alike, evil or good. Thus, through the Holy Scripture, God has spoken to mankind. Even though we don't know each other, we have a common friend. It's a schizophrenic friend, though. You know who he is? It's the ego. Ego. Because on the one hand, the ego is wise, he knows everything, can do everything, doesn't have need of anything, of nobody. On the other hand, of his schizophrenia, he wants to be the best. And therefore he knows that every now and then he needs help. So this is curious. The people who deny the necessity for a guru, in any case, they go to the gym. What do they search there? They want a personal trainer, someone who shows them how to perform Pilates. People in the world, in the business world also, what do they seek? They want counseling, they want consultancies, impartial people who can evaluate their activities, their business ventures. And today also, what does everyone seek? They want life coach, or they look for a life coach, or they want to be a life coach. So we can see that spontaneously we know that we need a guru, we need a guide, but at the same time we want to look for the real life coach. Many years ago, when we started our activity of organizing pilgrimages to India, Arjuna, he being sage as he is, wise as he is, he goes first, not just to check out the places, but also to try to find the right guides. And he did do a lot of searching, research, and finally he found someone who seemed to be the right guide for us. Those of you who have been with us to India, you've all met Bijay. Bijay is an extraordinary guide, and I understood that. I deducted that from this following event. We were at the feet of the Himalayas. We were doing a climb. We were climbing up to go and visit a saint. Maybe I can't remember who it was. The one who lives there where the tigers also come. So we were climbing for about 40 minutes, 30-40 minutes, and this climb was not along a path or a road. It was pretty rocky. When we got there, I was having my glasses dangling around my neck, so I put on my glasses, wanted to see the ashram, and then I realized that I had lost one of the lens. And I thought, oh, what am I going to do now? And I thought, well, when we go down, I might find it, but I'll never find it. Bijay then saw me. He noticed that I was a bit sad, and he said, what happened? I explained it to him, and then he said, as he always does, he said, Madam, do not worry. I'll take care of it. He spoke English. I thought, okay, really? So, before we started our descent, Bijay went first. But I didn't notice that. I hadn't noticed that. So I go down there and I look, and knowing that it would have been impossible to find one lens amidst the rocks. We get down, and who is standing there? Bijay. And what is he holding in his hand? Madam, your lens. Bijay nothing escapes his sight, his notice. And thus I understood the role of the Guru. When we lose our sight of who we are, sight of what our goal is, then the Guru steps in and finds it for us and sends us, guides us. How important it is, this guide for us. Bijay, just to open a parenthesis, he never lost a person, a piece of luggage, and never did he lose a lens. The Guru doesn't lose sight of us. Even through many, many incarnations, he's always there as our guide. And the mountain of spirituality is much more dangerous than an ordinary climb of a 30 minutes climb. When Edmund Hillary first climbed Mount Everest, who did he bring with him? He did bring a guide. His name was Tenzin Norgay. So we see the great importance, especially when we are looking at a climb that is so important, the importance of having a guru. Which are the capacities, the abilities of a guru? What does he give us? What does he make available to us? Someone who knows God, who has gotten there, who knows how to reach the top of self-realization. What does he make available for us? What does he bring us? Well, first of all, his love, his unconditional love, which is the greatest miracle, because even though we deny the Guru, when we renegade the Guru, we don't want him, we reject the Guru, when we go against him, we speak against him, still he loves us always and unconditionally. There was a follower of the Master, of Yogananda, who acted like this. After a while, he was feeling that he was greater than the Guru, which is a common delusion, and he started to speak against his Guru. He did things. He even started legal trials against court cases against the Guru, and every year Yogananda sent this disciple a box with mangoes, avocados, and every year this follower sent it back unopened. But the Master continued, insisted. He continued, and the last time Yogananda did this for his demise, he sent the same ticket, the same letter, "I will always love you." With that gesture, the man at the end was converted. Great, how great is this love that God has for each one of us, that the Guru has for each one of us. What else does he put at our disposal, the Guru? His responsibility to help us with our karma. There's a lot that we can do, and through the practices that the Guru gives us, we can digest a lot of that karma, but then comes karma that is so strong, so deep, that we couldn't do it on our own. And then it's the Guru's responsibility, task, to help, step in and help. Maybe you remember the story, a bit shocking for us, of Babaji. Babaji lived in the Himalayas with his disciples. He lives there. They're sitting around a fire, keeping them warm in the evening. All of a sudden, Babaji picks up a piece of burning wood, and puts it on the skin, on the arm of one of his disciples, creating, of course, causing him a lot of pain, atrocious pain, and the disciples were shocked. But Master, what a cruel thing to do. And Babaji then very calmly said, "You don't understand. It was his karma to die in a fire, to have a terrible death. And with this little pain, I freed him of that karma. I saved his life." There's another story, again about Babaji. When one of his servants went to a very good astrologer, this was the Adi Shankaracharya, and it happened in Banaras. The servant goes to the astrologer makes a horoscope and says, "I'm sorry, but tonight, it is your destiny to die." And then the servant, of course, gets very anxious and agitated, tells the story to Babaji, and Babaji answers, "It will not happen. You go back to this astrologer and tell him, my guru tells me that it's not true what you're saying, that I will not die. The astrologer, Shankaracharya, looks again at the horoscope and says, that's impossible. It's written here. I know tonight your karma will rise and you cannot overcome it. If you come back tomorrow and you're still alive, I will go to my guru personally and ask him to initiate me. The servant goes back home. That night, there is a terrible thunderstorm with lightning and thunder, very strong. Everything was shaking. The earth was shaking, and Babaji was lying on top of his servant. He tells the servants to lie down, and he puts his own body on top of the serpent. And in that way, the karma comes to Babaji, but doesn't get to the servant, to the disciple. Next morning, very happily, the disciple, he doesn't have to say anything, he just has to show himself, to present himself in front of the Shankaracharya. And Shankaracharya says, just does without saying anything, follows the disciple to Babaji and asks for initiation. And that way Babaji then gave Kriya Yoga to Shankaracharya. The Guru protects us, helps us, uplifts us, lifts a great part of our karma so that we can have the strength to face those parts of karma that we can face ourselves and overcome. Another story regards Yogananda. His first disciple was Dr. Lewis, who was a dentist in Boston. Dr. Lewis loved going sailing on the sea. One day he was sailing alone in his little boat, and a storm comes with high, huge waves, and the boat is being tossed around and is about to sink even. And Dr. Lewis then remembers what the master had told him, to stay, to dwell on the thought of the master, of the guru, and in the vibration of Om. And therefore inwardly he called his guru and he chanted Om. And then gradually the waters calmed down, as Jesus did with his disciples. Going back home, Dr. Lewis then, as soon as he enters, the telephone rings. He answers it, and the master's voice says, "Doctor, you were close to getting wet, didn't you? Weren't you? But let's look at the care, the protection that the Guru has for us." I had just read in the commentaries on Patanjali that Swami Kriyananda wrote, that in the state of Sabikalpa Samadhi, which is a very highly advanced state, where the soul, where the ego recognizes to be a one with God. So there is this recognition and this experience of ecstasy. But Patanjali then says, but in that state, there is still ego. The ego that is having the experience, thinking, now I recognize that I am part of God. And Yogananda then says that in that state, there's a lot of danger, a great danger. In fact, a lot of yogis and seekers, very advanced, highly advanced, subsequently fall because the ego steps in again and they start thinking that I am God, I am Christ. I remember I was with Swami Kriyananda and we were in Los Angeles. Two personages arrived to talk with Swamiji, and he asked me to serve tea. So I served tea. I come in with the tray, and as I come in with the tray, the man who was dressed with a cloak, long hair. He was just declaring to Swami that he was Jesus. I am Jesus, he said. His companion, his partner, stood up and said, and I am the Madonna. And we want you to recognize that as such, to recognize. And I was sort of I was pouring the tea and I was almost pouring it on them instead of in the cups. But I tried to be centered because Swami was, with a lot of respect, he said two things. First, he said, just to joke, he said, but there's only two of you. Where's the Holy Spirit? And then he said, if you are really Jesus and the Madonna, you don't need me to recognize that. The recognition would come from within. The Guru protects us from these states, egoic states. And as we proceed on the path of yoga, siddhis come, powers, with every yama, with every niyama. There is a power, the power to, for example, know other people's thoughts, to remember past lives, the power to commune with the angels, the devas, with the higher beings, the power to calm even the most ferocious animals of people. These powers do come, and then when they come, we here again still need the Guru's protection so that we do not use and waste these powers, misuse and waste these powers, and therefore devotion and humility is of the greatest help. So these are the capacities of the Guru. And we, how can we press at our advantage from everything that the Guru can give us? In today's reading from the Bhagavad Gita, he gives us 3 indications of what we should do to be able to take from the blessings and the grace of the Guru. 3 pieces of advice. First one is to be open. The second one is to ask from the Guru. And the third is to serve the Guru. Let's look at each one of them separately. We need to be open up. We need to open up to this guidance. The Guru will not manifest every day automatically saying, now you have to go here, now you have to do this, now you have to do that. The Guru doesn't mix, doesn't step in if we don't open up first. I remember once I went to visit Swami and he seemed sad. He wouldn't speak. He was really very thoughtful. And many of us asked him then, saying, Swami, is there anything wrong? What's happening? And Swami said, someone in this community is about to go in a very wrong direction, a very dangerous step, and he will suffer greatly. And then we said, well, let's call him. Let's go and call him and let's bring him here so that you can help him or her. And Swami then, there were some tears in his eyes. I can still remember that very well. He said, I can't. But why not, Swamiji? He said, because he didn't ask me. And that's how it is. We have the free will that God has given us. Freedom. We use our freedom. And if we don't use it well, if we will suffer for a long period as a cause of this free will, as long as we do not open up to this voice, to this guidance, only then the Guru can come. And with respect also, with humility, with kindness, we can start, he can start to give us signs, indications. I wanted to share with you another story. There is a classical image that maybe you know, that we often talk about, of the war in India, as it is told in the Bhagavad Gita. And there are two main characters. We have Krishna and we have Arjuna. I'm not going to tell you everything, just not even one part of it, but this image is symbolically very important for us as a symbol. So you have this chariot, which is a symbol of the life of the disciple. And Arjuna is on that chariot, and he must fight, and he represents courage and the soul who wants to overcome Maya. And then steering, leading the chariot, the charioteer, that's Krishna. Because Arjuna had wanted Krishna, had asked Krishna to help him. And Krishna had given to Arjuna and to his cousin two possibilities. One, to have at disposal his army, which was a huge and highly powerful army. The other one was to make himself available. But he would not fight, he would not pick up any weapons, he would only guide, steer the chariot. And Arjuna, without the slightest hesitancy, says, "Be you my charioteer." That means opening up. That is what it means to open up, to ask God, to ask the Guru to be the charioteer, and not this schizophrenic ego of ours. When we do the purification ceremony, who has done it at least once? So during this ceremony, we offer, we declare our opening up, our openness. I say, I seek purification, I seek guidance, I seek help, I seek purifications by the grace of God. Then he answers, the Master answers by saying, open your heart to me and I will enter. I can enter and take charge of your life. That is the right attitude to have, that we be open to be guided. And the guidance that we ask for, which is the Guru, our intuition, our superconscious mind, is not the ego then that is guiding our life. The second indication that the Bhagavad Gita gives us is to ask the Guru, to ask him questions. And there too, how curious and subtle it is, because there are ways and ways of asking, different ways of asking. You can do it in the schizophrenic way, who asks aggressively, not with humility, but in a very egoic way. He asks questions. I remember we were in the Himalayas and we were in the ashram of a sadhu who was a disciple of our Babaji, Mahavir Parbaji. At that moment he wasn't speaking, but he still solicited questions and then wrote the answers on a tiny little board. Usually the questions are long, the questions usually were long, and his answers were very short, short enough to fit into that little board. So then one of us in our group asked a question. It was a very intellectual question. The sadhu answered with 2 words. The person who had asked the question was not satisfied and then said, maybe you're right, but what if we consider this aspect of the question? And again, he asks the question, and the Gado writes only 1 word on the board. Still not satisfied, this person asks again. At that point, the sadhu only smiles. There was no need for words, because truth could not penetrate. Here, once, in a group, people came from abroad, had come from abroad, and they were asking me about the Guru, questions about the Guru. Do I need a Guru? And I, as sincerely as I could, I explained the importance of the Guru, and with every explanation, they had again doubts. But after a while, I remembered Swami's answer when someone asked him during a satsang, was asking him a question with the same attitude. Swami, do I need a guru? And Swami then said, no, you don't. You don't need a guru. Up to the point where in yourself rises the desire to wish to want to know God, and at that point you need a guru. And I remembered that, and I said, you are right, you don't need a guru. And I said, Om. I left. However, it is very important to ask our questions, to make requests to God. We ask things everywhere. We ask when we are in trouble, and then we have questions. What do I do now? What is the right thing to do? Where am I headed to? To an enemy? Maybe I need to go to a friend, to my grandfather, maybe to an astrologer, and we look for answers. But the Bhagavad Gita says, ask your guru, ask your higher self, ask the important questions, and ask everything. Don't wait until the crises come. Don't wait until you're completely confused or you're too confused to ask God for clarity, for guidance. That is an attitude that we all want to apply with a consistency in our lives. In everything that we have the attitude, also, even though I know how to do it, even though I've done it 1,000 times, even though I am capable, I still ask you in this circumstance, what is the right way to proceed? And if we ask that in the right way, we will receive answers. In this reading, a reading that we did not read today, Swami Kriyananda gave us a technique on how to ask in the most efficient and right way our questions. First he said you need to have questions. And to think, if today you met God, what would you ask from Him? And then write down 3 questions at least. 1, 5 questions, as many as you want. And then Swami says, every evening after meditation, focus your concentration at the point at the spiritual eye, visualize clearly the image and the eyes of the Guru. And then ask the questions one after the other with deep sincerity, with deep devotion. And then be vigilant in your life. Kriyananda says that the answers will come absolutely in this form. And I'd like to read the sentence. Kriyananda says, the disciple undoubtedly will receive silent answers to all his questions in the form of perceptions, inner perceptions, new inner perceptions, new ways of looking at things, of perceiving life. The last suggestion from the Gita, from the Bhagavad Gita, to press your advantage of everything that the Guru puts at our disposal. We need to serve the Guru, serve him, serve his work, because it is through service that is not just something that regards only the ego, but serving a cause, a greater cause, a cause that is greater than us. We attune ourselves with the Guru's vibrations. By serving him, we receive his vibrations. There have been disciples, also disciples of Yogananda. He tells this story in his autobiography. A great man, great disciple, his name was Norman, and the master asked him to pour cement, concrete. And at a certain point this disciple said, I didn't come here to throw cement. And he left. But after that, he was no longer in the Guru's ray. Swami Kriyananda then, when we were working a lot, well, actually, we're still working hard, but there were people who left, saying, we did not come here to work, we want to meditate more. And they left to meditate more and serve less. And what happened? They didn't meditate more, they didn't serve, and they were no longer in the Guru's ray. These are indicators of how to be a disciple who knows how to take from everything that the Guru can give us. And when we ask something to the Guru, ask it to him with the attitude of a completely trusting child. His child. He will hear it and he will answer. Now let's listen to Yogananda, his prayer at noon. I'm going to read this to you in Italian, what the Master says. And then we will listen and meditate. Yogananda prays. The sun shines high in the heavens. Everything is fully awake. Awaken thou me likewise. Thou art invisible, yet thine energy flows through the rays of sunshine. Fill my veins with thine visible rays, making me strong and tireless. As the sun shines in the busiest streets, so may I behold thy rays of protecting love in the crowded places of my life's activities. As the light shines steadily, undisturbed on the street, whether crowded or empty, so may I hold my calmness and my strength steadily, while I move through the crowded or empty streets of life. Give me strength, and what I receive, teach me to share with others. Let's now listen to Yogananda's voice.
Kamsa Yogananda, I'm praying with you. Pray with me with the deepest devotion of your soul. Prayer at noon. The sun shines high in the heavens. Everything is fully awake. Awaken thou me likewise. Thou art invisible, yet thine energy flows to the rays of sunshine. Fill my veins with thine invisible rays, making me strong and tireless. As the sun shines in the busiest streets, may I behold thy rays of protecting love in the crowded places of my life's activities. As the light shines steadily, undisturbed on the street, whether crowded or empty, so may I hold my calmness and my strength steadily while I move through the crowded or empty streets of life. Give me strength, and what I receive, teach me to share with others.